she said to my face. "I don't need you anymore." I stood there, not realizing what had happened. But then I found out the truth, and everything changed. You won't believe what happens next. It hit me the moment I heard her voice. The words were soft, casual, but they cut through me like a knife. Honestly, he's like a rescue dog. You feed him, he wags his tail. So easy to control. I was behind the wheel of the car, driving my wife Skylar and her friends to a spa weekend, the sun glaring down through the windshield. I couldn't even tell you if it was the heat or the sheer weight of those words that made my grip tighten on the steering wheel. It was as if the air had thickened around me, a deafening silence falling in the car after those words were spoken. I could feel the blood rush to my head, the burning red creeping across my face. But I didn't say anything. I didn't react. Because what could I say? Skylar and her friends laughed, loud, obnoxious laughs that echoed in the car, ignoring the man who had just driven 5 hours to get them to their destination. They continued on, discussing trivial things, like they hadn't just reduced me to some pet they could train. I stayed silent, focusing on the road ahead, trying to ignore the stinging words replaying in my mind. Rescue dog. Control. What the hell had happened to us? We were married for 8 years, and that's how she saw me? The drive back alone, after dropping them off at the spa, was the longest 5 hours of my life. No music, no podcast, just me and my thoughts. My thoughts became a torrent, memories of all the things I had quietly given up for her. Nights with the guys that I sacrificed because she said they were childish. My project car that never saw the light of day because the money went toward her new kitchen appliances. And every holiday spent with her family because mine was too chaotic. Was this all a pattern I never noticed? Had I been living in a constant state of submission, giving in to every little thing? By the time I pulled into our driveway, it was close to midnight. The house felt different, cold, empty. I wandered through the rooms, taking the photos, or rather, the lack of them. There were no pictures of my family, anywhere, not a single photo of us, just her carefully curated, perfect shots. I noticed the coffee maker. It wasn't the one I had wanted, the one she insisted on getting, because it was nicer, a small thing. But in that moment, it felt like a symbol of everything that had been wrong. Sitting down at our desktop computer to check my email before bed, I found myself staring at her social media accounts. It wasn't something I normally did. Snooping was never my thing. But after that comment in the car, something inside me snapped. And that's when I saw it. Her messages with her friends, and messages about me. How I was just a tool, a rescue dog she could control. How she had been playing me like a puppet for years, deliberately picking fights when I tried to bring up anything important to me. There were even screenshots of private arguments we'd had, sent to her friends as if I was a joke. They laughed at me, at us, at our life. It felt like someone had ripped the blindfold off, and I was finally seeing the truth. I didn't sleep that night. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a seething anger and realization that had built up in me. The next morning, the decision was made. I was done being someone's rescue dog. Skylar would be home on Monday. By then, everything would be different. The next few days were a blur. I spent them unraveling my life, piece by piece, and I didn't care what it took. I needed answers. But more than that, I needed to take control of the life I had let slip away. I had no idea how far I would go or where I would end up, but it felt like a weight was lifting from my chest with every action I took. I had finally stopped being her rescue dog. It started with a bank account. The thing I had always trusted, the one thing I thought I could count on, our finances, was a complete mess. Skylar's secret savings account, one I never knew existed, was something I had to confront. The transfers were small, at first, a couple of hundred here, a few hundred there, but when I added it up, it totaled more than $20,000 over the past 3 years. Our savings, the one thing I thought we were building toward a better future, had been siphoned off without my knowledge. What had she been doing with that money? Probably spending it on herself. That's when I really started to feel like the man I'd been wasn't even real anymore. But it didn't end there. As I dug deeper, I found more, far more than I had ever expected. Skylar's credit card was maxed out and not for anything we needed. There were gifts, clothes, trips, things she'd promised weren't on the credit card, things I never saw her mention. I started feeling like a fool, like I had been played. My hard-earned money was being used for things that weren't part of our life, but just her personal indulgences. And that's when I stumbled upon something even worse. I went through her old phone backups, messages, conversations, texts with her friends. And that's when it all clicked. Skylar had been planning everything. She had been manipulating me, controlling me for years, and I had been too blinded by love, or maybe just too weak, to see it. Messages from last Christmas stood out the most. There was a conversation with Laura, her friend, about me, about how she trained me to give her whatever she wanted. Men are so simple, Skylar had said. I just have to act excited about one designer gift, and he thinks that's all I want. She laughed. They both did. She had turned me into the joke. I wasn't a person anymore. I was a tool for her convenience, a joke for her friends. I couldn't let it go on like this. I called Hugo. He was the one person I knew would understand. We'd spent years fishing together, talking about everything, never judging, always listening. He was my friend, the only one I trusted, and now I needed his help. We spent hours going through everything, the messages, the finances, and her manipulations. When he saw the proof, his face said everything. He didn't even need to say it. I'll help you, he said simply. The plan was simple. I wasn't looking for revenge. I didn't want to be that guy. But I wasn't going to be her fool anymore either. I opened a new account in my name only. Transferred half of what was left in the joint account. I couldn't trust her anymore, and I wasn't about to leave myself vulnerable. I also canceled everything she had been hiding. The subscriptions, the services she used, everything that kept us in debt for her luxuries. Then came the locks. I had the locks changed. That was the hardest part. It wasn't about keeping her out of the house, but it was about taking control, taking back what was mine. It felt empowering. But it was also a reminder how far I had let things go. The final blow came when I packed up her things. Slowly, methodically, I removed everything that belonged to her. Her clothes, her shoes, the little knickknacks she had scattered around. I didn't throw them out. I moved them into a storage unit, paid for a month's rent. I didn't want to be cruel, but I needed to make sure she saw the reality of what she had done. I didn't tell her yet. I didn't want to, but I knew that when she came back, she would be met with the consequences. The final nail in the coffin would be the moment I had to face her. And when she did come home, after that weekend away, everything would have changed. The house was mine now. It wasn't the life we built, but it was mine. I wasn't going to stand by while she treated me like a doormat. Skylar came home on Monday, and I could feel the tension in the air the moment she walked through the door. She had no idea what had happened, no clue that everything had already changed. I watched her from the living room, her designer bag still slung over her shoulder, her eyes scanning the house, oblivious to the quiet war I had already waged. She still wore that same smug confidence she always had, as if nothing could ever touch her. I didn't say a word when she entered. I just let her settle in. She dropped her things by the door, shrugged out her coat, and walked into the kitchen like everything was normal. But I knew better. I knew this was the last time things would feel normal between us. I stayed in the living room, sitting in the silence, waiting for her to notice. And sure enough, it came. She walked into the living room, scanning the space, and then it hit her. The changes, the furniture rearranged, the new locks on the door, the lack of any trace of her, no photos of her, no reminders of the life she'd built for herself in this house. "Why did you do this?" she asked, her voice sharp with confusion. But I could hear the undertone of panic creeping in. Her eyes flitted nervously around the room, as if trying to figure out what had happened without me saying a word. I stood up slowly, walking toward her. Why did I do this? I repeated, letting the question hang in the air. Why did you think I'd just let you walk all over me for the rest of my life? Her face flushed, and for the first time in years, I saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. It didn't last long. She quickly masked it with her usual deflection, crossing her arms defensively and sneering. "I don't know what you're talking about." What are you even saying? I could see her trying to keep control of the situation, but she had lost that power a long time ago. You think I didn't notice? I continued, my voice low but steady. You think I didn't see what you were doing? The way you controlled me, manipulated me like I was some kind of fool. She laughed, but it was hollow, forced. Oh, please. You're acting like I've been some monster. I've always been good to you. What happened to for better or worse? Huh? This is ridiculous. Her tone shifted, turning icy, but I could see the cracks beneath it. She knew she had no ground to stand on anymore. Good to me? I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You've been good to me? You've been playing me. You've been using me for years. And the worst part is you never even saw me as a person, just a tool to get what you want. My hands clenched into fists, but I kept my composure. I wasn't going to lose control now. Skylar's expression flickered between shock and anger. You think you're the victim here? She spat, taking a step towards me. You're the one who couldn't even keep up with me. The one who couldn't even provide for me the way I deserved. I'm the one who had to settle. She was shouting now, desperate to regain her footing. You think you're going to leave me with nothing? You think I won't destroy you? Don't forget, I know everything about you. Her words felt like empty threats, but part of me couldn't help but feel a cold chill run down my spine. I didn't flinch. You think you know everything? You think you got the upper hand? I stepped forward, my voice unwavering. I'm done being your punching bag. I'm done being your rescue dog. The words were out before I could stop them, and the look on her face said it all. She had never seen this version of me before. For a moment, there was silence between us, and in that silence, I realized something important. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment I stood up for myself, the moment I took control back. She opened her mouth, probably to lash out again, but I didn't wait for it. You'll get your share of the house, your alimony, everything you think you deserve, but you won't control me anymore. You won't get to make me your fool again. I took a deep breath, walking toward the door. I've got a life to rebuild. I didn't look back. She didn't call me. She didn't beg me. The silence that followed was relief, a sign that I had taken the right step. The next morning, I hired a lawyer. The divorce was going to happen, whether she liked it or not. I thought I had prepared myself for everything that would come next, but nothing could have truly readied me for the chaos of the days that followed. I had told Skylar I was done. I had made it clear that I wouldn't be her fool anymore. But the fight for control, the fight to keep everything intact, was far from over. I had never been through something like this, and now, with every passing hour, I was more certain that I had made the right decision. The first shock came a day after the confrontation. I had settled in with Hugo, waiting for the lawyer's response. I was ready for whatever came next, as long as it was away from her manipulation. But then came the phone call that stopped me dead in my tracks. It was from Skylar's brother, Mark. He said he wanted to meet. I agreed, not sure what to expect. Part of me thought maybe he was going to scold me for causing problems with his sister. But what Mark said was something I could never have prepared for. You've been right about her for years, he said, looking down at his hands, his voice thick with guilt. I should have said something sooner. Skylar's been manipulating everyone, including me. The words hit me like a wave. My mind couldn't process it at first. Her brother, the one person I thought would defend her, had just admitted everything I'd suspected but never had the confirmation for. The shock was overwhelming. My stomach twisted, a mixture of anger and betrayal bubbling up inside me. He continued, his eyes never meeting mine. She's been playing us all. You're not the only one she's done this to. She's been controlling me, too. I've watched her twist everyone around her, and I never said a word. The weight of his confession hung heavy in the air between us. I wanted to say something, anything, but all I could do was sit there, feeling the reality of everything I had lived with for 8 years crashing down on me. Why didn't you tell me? I finally asked, my voice hoarse with the rawness of everything I was feeling. I wasn't mad at him. Not really. I was mad at myself for not seeing it sooner. Mark's face twisted in regret, and he looked genuinely ashamed. I didn't know how to handle it. She made me feel like I was the one who was being unreasonable. She's always been so good at making people think she's right. And I didn't want to lose her as family. I nodded, understanding the bind he was in, but at the same time, I couldn't help but feel a little more betrayed. She had been so skilled at manipulating not just me, but everyone, the people closest to her. And that realization stung. "I don't know what you're going to do with all this," Mark said, his voice quiet. "But I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. And if you need anything, I'm here." I wanted to thank him, but the words never came. There was no way to express the tidal wave of emotions coursing through me. Instead, I just nodded, and with that, he left. And just like that, a small piece of my world shattered. The next day, I sat down to review everything. The lawyer had sent over the initial papers. It was time to begin the process of pulling everything apart. The house, the money, the assets. Everything that had once been ours was now mine to reclaim. The first step was to make sure she couldn't manipulate me financially again. I had to make sure I had control. It was overwhelming. There were moments when I questioned if I could go through it all. But then I thought about the years I had wasted, the years of being unseen, unheard, controlled. And then the thought of Skylar's voice calling me a rescue dog came crashing back. That was it. I was done. I had changed the locks, but it wasn't enough. I had to protect myself in ways I hadn't before. So I canceled the joint accounts, closed out the credit cards. Everything that had kept me financially tied to her was severed. I wasn't going to give her the opportunity to drain me again. But then came the next unexpected twist. Skylar showed up at my work. She walked in, looking like a picture of distress, mascara running down her face. She stood there for a moment, her eyes scanning the office. But when she saw me, the tears started to flow. She rushed toward me, but I stepped back, holding up my hand. "Don't," I said firmly, the coldness in my voice surprising even me. "I'm not doing this anymore." She stopped, her face crumpling as she wiped her tears away. "Please," she whispered. "I didn't mean it. I didn't mean what I said. I was just joking. I never thought you'd take it that seriously." It was then that I realized the truth. She thought I was just another joke. I was just another pet she could laugh at, control, and discard when she was bored. And I wasn't going to let her do that anymore. The chaos was relentless, but so was the clarity. Skylar's appearance at my work was just another reminder that the woman I thought I knew was long gone. In her place was someone desperate to keep the grip on the life I had built for us. But I wasn't going to give in. Not anymore. I had already made the decision, and I was seeing it through. This wasn't about revenge. It was about my dignity, my life. I wasn't her fool any longer. The day after the confrontation at work, I woke up with a purpose. I had my lawyer on the phone, finalizing the divorce papers. The house would be sold, the investment split, everything tied up. There was no going back now. I had made the decision, and I wasn't looking back. The next few weeks would be messy, navigating the legal battles, the financial entanglements, but I didn't care anymore. The burden of years of manipulation had finally been lifted off my shoulders. Skylar didn't give up easily. She texted, she called. She showed up at my door, crying, pleading for us to talk. But each time, I shut her down. I had learned everything I needed to know about her. Her apologies were nothing but words. Empty words. The woman who had spent years laughing at me, mocking me behind my back, could never be the person I wanted her to be. And I knew now that I had been holding on to an illusion for far too long. The final showdown came when Skylar arrived at my house one last time. She came unannounced, standing at the door, hands trembling, eyes wide with desperation. She was no longer the confident woman I had known. There was fear in her eyes, fear of losing everything, of finally realizing that she had taken me for granted for too long. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was wrong. Please, we can fix this. I'll change. I'll do whatever you want." I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in a long time. The woman standing before me was not the woman I had married. She was broken. And as much as I want to feel something, guilt, pity, even sadness, all I felt was a sense of liberation. "I don't need you to change. I said, my voice calm but firm. I need you to leave. I'm done. She stood there, stunned. The tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't fight. She couldn't. The power she once held over me was gone. I had taken it back. As she walked away, her shoulders slumped. I felt nothing. There was no satisfaction, no gloating, no joy in seeing her defeated. There was just peace. Finally peace. The days that followed were surreal. I packed up the last of her things, moved them to the storage unit. I had already made plans to sell the house. Everything was changing, but the changes were mine to make. And for the first time in years, I was the one in control. A month later, the divorce was finalized. The house was sold, and I had moved into a small apartment. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The financial turmoil was a nightmare, but slowly, I started rebuilding my life. The nightmares of the past, of Skylar, the lies, of the control, started to fade. I didn't start dating right away. I needed time to process everything. But eventually I did, and it wasn't the same. I didn't want someone to control me, to make me feel small. The woman I ended up meeting was different. She was kind, funny, and most importantly, she respected me. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was with someone who saw me for who I truly was. Not as an object to be manipulated, but as a person. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I'll never let myself be anyone's fool again. The pain was real, but it was worth it. I learned how strong I really am. And that strength, it's mine. To everyone going through something similar, trust yourself. If it feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let someone make you feel like you're not enough. You are enough. You deserve better. And if you have to walk away, do it. You'll never regret it.